In 2024, a truck crashed into Kanawha Animal Rescue, where I work. 146 of our dogs needed homes fast. We asked for help on Facebook. Our story spread through WhatsApp messages and Instagram reposts. Immediately, people stepped up.
I'm here to foster.
And just 6 hours later, every dog was fostered. I'll never forget how our community showed up for us.
Learn how over 3.5 billion people connect to what matters with Meta at meta.com/community.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit. By using insights from the LinkedIn Network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post your first job today and get $100 off at linkedin.com/Pandora offer. Terms and conditions apply.
Today's episode of Phillies Therapy is executive produced by Adam D., Andrew G., Joe M., Mary R., and Owen S., executive producer members of our Patreon and our Discord. All right, let's get to today's episode. Hello and welcome to the first day of fake spring here in the eastern United States. My name is Paul Boyer, and this is Phillies Therapy. Things are starting to warm up finally, coming up to about 70 degrees or so here in New Jersey, where we still have piles of snow on the ground. It's that wonderful time. We don't have a name for this season yet, but when the snow gets so compacted toward the bottom of these piles after some kind of significant snowfall here in the east, it can get up to 90 degrees, and this thing would take a week to melt. There is some scientific phenomenon about the density of this snow. You know what? We're going to move on. We're going to talk about things that are happening in places where snow doesn't happen, and that's Florida. Spring training continues, albeit with about half of a camp. A lot of the players are out playing in the World Baseball Classic, with pool play continuing. The United States is 2-0 as of this recording. Your country of choice, hopefully they're still in it, playing competitive. I think the most exciting game of the tournament so far, or one of the most anyway, it's been the one that happened earlier today on Monday with a 5-run deficit between Korea and Australia, thanks to the WBC tiebreak rules. I'm talking about anything but what we want to talk about here on this episode and this intro. I need to get myself back on track, and I think I need to bring in my co-host to help me do just that. He is, of course, the Phillies beat writer for The Athletic. He is Matt Gelb. Matt, hello. Happy Monday. Welcome to a brief glimpse of fake spring here for the next few days. How have you been? How was your weekend?
Yeah, false spring. It feels like baseball weather, but it probably won't be
does.
this warm when the Phillies open on, checking notes, March 25th. Is that the date? 26th. It's very early. It's going to be cold. I'm going to predict that it's going to be colder than it is this week in Philadelphia.
I think you're right.
Like
Yeah.
high 70s. But we are 2.5 weeks, even less than that, really. I mean, almost 2 weeks now from opening day. And it doesn't really feel like it, does it?
No, not right now. Not with the
No, I mean, I
roster
think
split
mainly
the way it
because exactly right. I mean, it's such a weird camp because, you know, especially this time here, like they're doing this overnight trip to Fort Myers to play 2 games. And yeah, I mean, they took a pretty skeleton squad. They took a skeleton squad of the skeleton squad that is in camp. So they you know, really, and it's funny because Major League Baseball has this arcane rule where you're supposed to bring like X amount of like semi-regulars on the road, you know, so that fans can see, you know, something of a representative lineup. Apparently they waive that rule, like with the WBC. Not that teams really follow it anyway, and it's not, I don't know that it's really enforced or anything, but it's funny because now like you pretty much can do whatever you want. And so yeah, they have Marsh and Crawford playing, but you know, the crew in Fort Myers is not robust, and it's not like they have a ton of guys to bring down there. So it's a weird camp because yeah, you're like, okay, well this camp could be about some of the younger guys that they have, and they have quite a few younger guys in camp, but and I know somebody on the Discord, our Phillies Therapy Discord, had asked me this last week, like, you know, what's been the feedback from, other evaluators or just people in Phillies camp about any of the younger players in camp, anyone sticking out. And it's
Mhm.
like, not really, because a lot of the younger guys they have in camp are just like, so prospects, right? I mean, the big guys obviously were focused on Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller, who's not playing. But after that, there's a considerable drop off. No matter how you feel about, some of the middle tier uh, Phillies prospects.
Mhm.
Arun Escobar has played quite a bit. He looks like a guy who's in his first big league camp. He's like, he's struggled against some better pitching, uh, but it's just an odd thing, and that's why it doesn't feel like opening day is right around the corner. And we still have a week from today, Paul,
Mhm.
a week from tomorrow is the WBC championship.
Yep.
So, like, guys are going to start filtering into camp as teams are eliminated, obviously. It seems like Panama is probably on the verge of elimination. Like, Sosa will be back in camp soon. Like,
Sosa. Mhm.
some of these guys will be back soon, but, we fully expect that the DR and the Venezuela and U.S. team, obviously, to, keep playing. So, a lot of those guys will not be back. And they're going to get back, and there's going to be like a week or about less than a week left of spring training. It's not like I think for the Phillies, like it's going to be less of an issue because, as we know, it's a pretty similar team to last year's. It's not like
Sure.
they had to integrate a ton of new personalities or people into the clubhouse mix. So does it feel a little disjointed? Yes, uh, but I don't know. It's just I think it's just underscoring like how I don't want to say meaningless, but just how rote these Grapefruit League games are.
Yeah.
I mean, and like we wanna like read into something or glean something from these games. You want to see something that you're like, oh, like that's important or that's interesting, and it's just like you're looking for these little hints, and I don't know. It's a difficult exercise this spring, I think.
Well, and that's a good way to segue into a more specific example of that very thing, and that is Andrew Painter's performance because he is getting a lot of attention along with Justin Crawford. And, you mentioned he's one of the top three in the Philly system right now. So, with his expectation that he's set to make the team, as the expectation being fourth or fifth starter, he's made two outings, made two starts in spring. He's finished 5 innings completely. He's allowed one hit. He only has the one strikeout and one walk. So you look at that stat line, it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. In his first outing, hit 96, 97, threw all the pitches, was clean, efficient. Second outing over the weekend against the Blue Jays, also efficient, but a little more out of the zone, fought the fastball a little bit more. The secondaries hit the zone a little bit better. All in all, it looks like a guy who, and this is my perspective on the whole thing, through two spring outings and everything we know about him, including last year's, recovery season in Lehigh Valley, looks like a guy who has the tools, who has the stuff, but is probably still going to be fighting it a little bit. Whether that fight lasts just for the rest of spring training or continues on into the season, we don't know that yet. But it looks like a guy who's clearly got the talent. But we're in spring training with these weird rosters. Like you were just saying, it's hard to really understand what these performances tell us. Matt, I think you had the opportunity to talk with a couple of folks about Painter who have had a look, evaluators, people who actually get paid for this sort of thing, who've had a chance to really look at what Painter is offering this spring, going against, some pretty impressive hitters on the Yankee side, hasn't all been scrubs. What have you been able to learn, and what have you seen from Painter just through these two outings? Again, we're talking about 5 innings here. Not many batters above that. What have you been able to hear from folks, and what have you seen from Painter that stood out to you?
He's competing. And like, and
Mm.
now that's like, this is the most cliched baseball thing, right? It sounds like it is, but last year, I think when people went in to see him, they would see a guy who, was obviously fighting some mechanical stuff. He was fighting some, I think, just fatigue, maybe just from like, having pitched a full season, for the first time in a while. But they would see a guy who, when things maybe didn't go his way or got a little bit out of hand, who wasn't able to pull himself out of it. And I think what evaluators have seen so far is they see a guy who's got plus feel for secondary offerings, which is something that Painter has always had. I think it's going to be, one of the things that could separate him as a major league pitcher, major league starter. I think, obviously there's been a lot of discussion about the fastball, and I don't think it's been like a great fastball yet. It's funny because I did ask two scouts who I really trust after the first outing. They weren't there to see Painter in the second one. The first outing, I was like, what'd you think of the fastball? And one of the scouts pointed out that Yankees lineup specifically was at the top, a bunch of really good fastball hitters who were not able to square it up. And it's like, okay, well, I'm asking, well, what about the characteristics of the fastball? And they're like, stop asking me about that because it's early March. And I think that like it leads to a bigger conversation that, we were having this in the Discord ball about like, the prevalence of data for these grapefruit league games is awesome, right? I mean, like we get to know exact measurements, and now this year MLB made all the clubs in the grapefruit league standardize it and have the full stat cast in their grapefruit league stadiums. It's awesome. Like it just gives us more context for everything, but it's context. It's not everything, I think. And we do lose sight, I think, because this is practice. And like I'm almost overly wary if a guy is at peak performance in early March, because like I don't think that's what you want. And like I guess it's different with the WBC guys, and we're even seeing it. I mean, like most of these guys are not really at peak performance, I would say, even the guys in the WBC. And there's pitch limits, etc. Like it's early March. And I guess maybe the best red flag instance of it, well, I'll give two examples. And we've talked about guys who've had great springs and then just do nothing. I mean, last year, Max Kepler had an amazing spring. He was hitting the ball hard. I'm looking at it right now. He was third in average exit velocity among Phillies hitters last spring. It was Schwarber, Rincones Jr. Remember, Gabriel Rincones Jr. had a great spring last year. And then Kepler. And you're like, and I remember we were talking, we're like talking ourselves into Max Kepler based off the spring he had. Because you're like, okay, well, this is an underlying, this tells us something, Forget about the stat line. The fact that he's making this quality contact and hitting the ball hard at this kind of rate says something. Like, had off-season surgery. Okay, his power is back. Well, how did that turn out? Okay.
Yeah.
The other one, I guess, like, is you think about Alvarado last spring, right? And he was unbelievable. And we don't know why, again, we know that he was suspended later in the season, and it was, he claims and the team believes that it was tied to a weight loss supplement. He was in really good shape last spring. He was throwing harder maybe than he ever has. And you're like, I remember thinking at the time being like, okay, whoa. I mean, first of all, he's been unbelievable. Second of all, like, is this a good thing? Like, what's going on? Like, do you want to be this maxed out in March? And all this ties to Painter. I'm sorry for rambling. Is that like one of the reasons why he blew out 3 springs ago is that he was throwing 99 and 100 in mid-February, and he was just like too amped up or juiced up going into spring. Like he had almost been too ready for spring training that year as a 19-year-old. And I do think that this spring, part of him being a normal player on a normal progression was that you need to build up. Like, do not be 100% Andrew Painter in early March, because we don't want a repeat of what happened. And he knows, I think he has a better feeling for his body now. It's like, just be smarter about it. And so all of that said, it's like you're viewing Painter incomplete right now. Most of these guys, really. I mean, we saw with John Duran, like the first outing he threw, and he was one of the last guys to get into a game. It's like 97, 98. You're like, maybe even like a bunch of 96s. You're like, what's going on here? And like, then the next outing, he bumps, 100, 101. Like, he just knows, like, he knows how to build himself up and work toward it. Because again, Paul, this is practice. And the data, like, we see the data and we want it to be mid-season form. And it's just not that. And so I think that that's an important part of this conversation.
Absolutely. I find myself fighting that instinct. Even somebody who's been watching spring training through the lens that you were just talking about for some time now, it is hard to fight back against that. So much of baseball is a drop in the ocean of a long season of, you hear sample size is a word and a phrase we like to toss around a lot because a lot of it is so true. There's a lot of focus on individual performances, individual games, individual pitches. Sometimes we're almost at that level with Painter right now, but really all of that is in service of the bigger picture. One outing, one event just kind of fills in the gaps. It is not the end all be all of what a player is in that moment.
And I don't want to say this to minimize. We're not trying to minimize. I think we've been clear-eyed about like the fact that, what did we say in the last episode where I was like, hey, like, can he be a major league average starter? Like, what,
right.
We were talking about, trying to ballpark his ERA. It's like, okay, will he be around major league average? And I think that while that is a very measured expectation, it might be a disappointing expectation. Maybe other people, you might have a higher standard for that. And I think that's fair. I think that's, again, when you're looking at the composition of their rotation right now, when healthy, like that's what they need from him. I don't think that they need anything more than that. And I do think that scenario, that sort of dynamic is conducive to a better performance because he is not and should not be carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders here because look who else is in the rotation.
So much of this, I think, too, is colored by the prospect rankings and those expectations. Right. And I think it's fair that some things get graded on a curve. If you are somebody who is considered one of the better prospects in the sport before you make your debut, I do think it's reasonable to expect a little bit more right away. But it doesn't always happen that way. I was looking at just on one of my baseball reference wormholes that I usually get into. I was looking at Corey Kluber the other day. Pitcher who rose to prominence with Cleveland, made a couple other stops toward the end of his career. He didn't break out until he was 28. Now he is a different story, right? Like he was not.
Now you're really moving the goalposts there.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that these are the same guy, that they were the same kind of prospect, that they were really much of anything. Just the fact that there is another example of development not being linear. It does sound a little bit like I'm getting out in front of Painter being a serious disappointment when I say some of this stuff. And that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to put up armor against a guy who I'm secretly saying is going to be a bust or is going to flame out or is somebody who I have now completely soured on and think that, he's being set up for failure. Nothing at all to that extreme. That is not what's happening here. There is a realistic middle ground that somebody like this can inhabit, especially as a rookie. We've seen somebody in Andrew Painter who was heralded as a 19-year-old. He was on the cusp of making the major leagues and is now years removed from that, right? That was how this all started and has gone through a ton in the years in between. To think that he could come right out and just be fantastic is unlikely. To think that he could come out and immediately flop and fall on his face, also unlikely. I think when we talk about somebody who's going to be around, who has a good chance of being around a major league average ERA, that's just one measure. I think that's totally reasonable. And that is what we're saying. We think it is smart to accept the middle ground. And it's okay if he has some bumps in the road along the way, right? You can look back at Jesus Luzardo, right? Those two starts in the middle and how they color a lot of his season-long numbers, some of his season-long numbers. Hell, even think about Chris Sanchez and all the bumps he went through his first few years in Philadelphia before he found his role, settled in, and became one of the better starting pitchers in the league last year. All of these things can take time. And it doesn't mean, if Andrew Painter has just an average year this year, doesn't mean he can't be better. Doesn't mean he can't be different. Doesn't mean he won't evolve. That's what this sport is about. Again, it's not being an apologist. It's not being defeatist. It is not a loser mindset. It's none of that. It is accepting of how things can go, especially for rookies as a baseball player. We're just being pragmatic, honestly.
I have a hot take.
Okay.
This is distracting from probably an even bigger concern for me in the rotation right now.
Okay.
Taijuan Walker. Like I watched some of those. I don't know how much I went back and watched some of the Mexico Brazil outing from Sunday.
Uh-huh.
You know, he didn't give up any runs, but he's facing, Brazil.
Sure.
Just a lot of long at bats and just like not a lot of finishing touches on some of these at bats, which just really, I don't know. I mean, like I think we've talked about Walker a lot. How like it was surprising that he was essentially league average last year, which is all they need from him this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just have some concerns there.
As in, we think it might not quite be league average. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just think right now the guy. Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, like what he. And again, we're talking about early March. We're talking about.
Yeah.
We still got a little more than 2 weeks to opening day, but until Zach Wheeler comes back, even if that's late April, Walker and Painter are at the back of the rotation, and you need one of those guys to be league average, even if one of them isn't, right? I mean, just for a few weeks. And I don't know, the current version of Walker scares me a little bit.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
That's pure automotive joy. I'm Peter, the owner of Muscle Car Jr. It started as a hobby, then I started posting about it. Before I knew it, I built a business restoring muscle cars on Facebook Marketplace and a community of car lovers on Instagram. Today, new customers send me WhatsApp messages from all over. Not bad for a hobby.
Learn how Meta helps over 35 million American businesses like Peter's grow at meta.com/community.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The lone wolf, who you thought was a good collaborator because you didn't have the right candidate insights. But once you hired them, it was all hoarding info, declining meetings, and howling at the full moon? But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can go deeper than just the resume to find you a perfect fit. By using insights from the LinkedIn network to give you a short list of best fit candidates. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post your first job today and get $100 off at linkedin.com/Pandora offer. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
And then that ties into the other discussion we've had about the depth of the arms within the system. We saw within the last couple of days, the Phillies have made some moves to reorganize camp a little bit, some options.
So here's a great spring nuance, Paul. If you're optioned, you cannot come back for a Grapefruit League game. If you are reassigned, which means you are not on the 40-man and you're an NRI who's sent to minor league camp, you can come back.
That is a fascinating wrinkle that
the more you know.
I did not know. Yeah, and I like to
if
look
you're
at
optioned,
all these
you can't
things.
Come back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. Well, among those who were optioned were a couple of those, depending on your view of them these days, starting pitching options: Joniel Curry, Gene Cabrera, Moises Chase. They were optioned out to Lehigh Valley, so they'll start the year in AAA. Additionally, another option.
Yeah, maybe. Were they optioned to Lehigh?
They were optioned to Lehigh, to start. And additionally, another guy who actually showed some more promise than I think maybe a lot of people were expecting. I know I was excited to see how he looked, curious to see how he looked. Was Alex McFarlane a potential relief option? He was optioned to Reading, so he'll start the year apparently in Double-A. Seems like a guy who can move quicker, though. I mean, not a finished product, but he was able to huck that fastball up to 100. He's got a really good slider. At least the slider looked really good in the outings I saw from him. That's somebody to watch out for. That's somebody who may be making an appearance in the later.
If he throws strikes,
yeah,
that's a big if. Of course, he can move fast, and yes, he'll start at Reading in the bullpen as Reading's closer, I presume. And he drew some pretty good reviews from rival scouts this spring. Not a finished product, obviously, but you can see the makings here of a late inning reliever. You really can.
And so, Matt, all of this feeds into just camp continuing to feel a little bit fluid. Like I'm trying to get like a steady ground under my feet to try and evaluate, I guess would be the term, what we're seeing, because I want to get a feel for what I think this team is going to look like coming out of the gate. I think we all do. That's one of those natural instincts, reflexes, whatever you want to call it, that feeds into all of these spring games. But with everything that's moving around this camp, even more so than usual this spring, because it's not atypical for a spring to be like this, but with so many players being on WBC rosters, you add that wrinkle in. I still find myself unsteady. I know it's a little more than 2 weeks still to opening day, but I don't really know what I think about a lot of these guys. I'm just trying to, I guess what I'm saying is, this year,
well, here I'll tell you,
in this camp, like, when can I start really drawing inference or conclusion? Like, when should I start trusting what I see as, all right, I think this guy is ready, or anything like that, along with the point you were about to make?
4 or 5 days of camp, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 7 guys in innings pitched so far this spring in Grapefruit League games: Alan Ronhell, Seth Johnson, Nolan Hoffman, Zach McCambly, Andrew Painter, Trevor Richards, and Andrew Walling. So only one of those guys will be on the team. And, like, I think that's why. I mean, like, you just, like, these games are practice, and right now, like, they are really going, churning through some of the depth guys. And, I think some of the guys they optioned out, I would start with Gene Cabrera. Like, he showed well, I think, but he just, again, like, he needed a lot of pitches in a lot of these innings, right? I mean, like, he put up some okay numbers, but it was just like, it was a lot of pitches to get through these innings. And you're looking for efficiency, like, you're looking for a little bit more refinement. He's probably the 6th starter. I don't know. I mean, I guess Ronhell could be up there. Ronhell has not been very good this spring. But again, how much do you read into it? I don't know. Chaussee, they optioned him out. He didn't. He's recovering from Tommy John. He wasn't even on the major league side. He had a locker. He's mandated to have a locker because he's on the 40-man roster, but he was working out on the minor league side all spring. So he'll just continue that work over there. And then Cure, the guy from Tampa in the trade, not great.
Yeah, that was
just
that was rough.
Just not a good spring. And it wasn't even, again, you're not even looking at results. You're looking for, can he hit a target? Can he throw a strike? And the answer to that was not really. And you could see it, like, early in camp too, like the bullpens, it was just a little raw. And last year was his first year as a full-time reliever in Tampa's system. They DFA'd him. They took him off the 40. Phillies made a minor trade to get him. It's a kind of lottery ticket, flyer, etc., that you take if you're the Phillies. And they'll continue to work with him, but hard to see him without drastic improvement as being some sort of depth option in 2026. And I'm guessing will put his 40-man spot in peril, but we'll see. I mean, just not a lot of feel for the secondary stuff. Could not throw a strike with the fastball. He throws hard, but just not great.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at these numbers, right? He made 3 appearances, faced 14 batters, 4 hits, 4 walks, hit by pitch, wild pitch, had 8 runs hung on his line, gave up 2 homers, all while retiring 5 batters for an inning and 2/3 across those 3 games. ERA 43.2.
Seen better springs.
Yeah, there have been better springs than that. All while facing this is one of my favorite spring metrics. The opponent quality metric. I've talked about this before, where the batters a pitcher faces and vice versa just get assigned an integer 10, 8, 7, depending on the highest level they reached last year. And you get an average of that just to see what guys have been facing roughly by level, to say nothing of their prospect status. And Cure's average opponent quality was somewhere between a high A and a double A hitter among those 14 batters. So all of that while facing guys he theoretically by this should have been carving up. Yeah, it was not the best appearance. He did have those 3 strikeouts though, so
Right. And again, spring, all the caveats apply, but I think it did not pass a lot of the look tests. And so they'll get more time with him at AAA. We'll see. But I mean, I think most of the bullpen darts they threw this offseason to get depth have been like kind of decent. I mean, like we've talked about Kyle Backus. I think he's going to make the team. He's been solid. I think Seth Johnson's had a decent spring. I think that Tim Meza has had a decent spring as a non-roster guy. I think Lazar before he left was solid. Pop has been kind of interesting. Nolan Hoffman, I think, is an interesting depth arm. Again, a guy who, like, if you need to shuffle through, multi-inning relievers, like, could do worse than that. I think Andrew Walling is a guy who has stuck out a little bit, and he's pitching again today. He's left-handed. He's an org guy. Throwing harder this spring. He's kind of interesting. The Jonathan Hernandez guy, he pitched for a while for Texas. He hasn't had great numbers, but I think he's had some interesting flashes. He has an early out, I think. We'll see if he goes to AAA. McCambly, the Rule 5 pick. It's a high bar for him to make the team, and he has not cleared it. And it's just not enough strikes. And in the role that he would fill, like, you need strikes, right? I mean, that's pretty much all you're looking for. You need somebody who can throw strikes, who can pitch 2 or 3 innings at a time. I don't know. I think they would love to have more time to work with him, but the nature of a Rule 5 pick is that you really don't. I mean, you can't really work with him in the majors if he's not pitching a lot, and you're short a guy in the bullpen. I think it's going to be really hard for him to make the team.
It's sort of like the Jose Ruiz memorial role, where one of the reasons I liked him so much a couple of years ago was because he had the velo as the very last man in the bullpen, but he threw a decent amount of strikes. Like, he was getting the ball over the plate in a quality way. Last year he wasn't throwing enough strikes, and the strikes he did throw were getting clobbered. And that's not what you want from anybody on your roster. But even, I'll say especially, I don't know if that's fully what I mean, but when you're trying to win a comfortable game and keep it comfortable, and this is a thing we've seen a lot the last couple of years with this Phillies team, you want somebody who gets into the game and gets the ball over the plate, doesn't make it too hard on himself or the team to finish out the game that he has been assigned to clean up, right? Like, there were 4 or 5 run leads that we saw diminish to 2, 1, or sometimes worse over the last couple of years, just because they didn't have good mop-up work. And I know that almost sounds crazy, but you want somebody who at least can deliver that kind of quality. And that's the role that McCambly theoretically would fill if he makes this team. If he can't do that, if he can't throw those strikes, then that probably does set the bar a bit out of his reach.
I should mention Chase Shugart too. He's been good, and it's not overpowering. It's not high leverage kind of stuff. It's not, but he's the kind of guy who he has an option, and he'll probably start the year AAA. And I guarantee you he'll pitch for the Phillies at some point this year. But he's the kind of guy, optionable arm, who you want to churn through that 7th and 8th spot. It's just better quality than they had in that spot last year.
And the impacts, of course, of some of these moves around the edges of the roster are noticeable and worth mentioning. At least the Phillies 40-man roster currently sits at 39. They're expected to add Justin Crawford to make that an even 40. But there's a race for that last bench spot that's in the mix too, that will probably need a 40-man spot. We're talking about the likes of Brian De La Cruz, Dylan Moore, Pedro Leon is in that mix too. I think he is already on the 40. Yes, he is.
Yes. So do you want to know who's number 1 and number 2 in Phillies hitters average exit velocity this spring, minimum a certain amount of at bats, or I don't know what it is.
I would love to hear that. Who is it?
Number 1, Brian De La Cruz. Number 2, Dylan Moore.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they've had good springs. You know me, my sicko meter went off when the Dylan Moore signing happened. And I'm glad that is looking pretty good so far. And Brian De La Cruz was interesting with the Marlins a couple years ago, and then just had a terrible year last year. Well, he bounced between the Braves and the Pirates or wherever he was. And he didn't look good. I don't know what that was all about. He looked like a capable major league player a couple of years ago. So I won't say that I'm surprised to see that he's having a good spring for whatever this is worth. But I am happy to see it. I do think he could be a contributor in some form or fashion, and he does have an option, which helps his cause.
Well, no, does he have an option? I mean, he's on a minor league deal, and so I'll say this: the machinations of all this will probably play into Moore's favor. So De La Cruz has an out, but it's not until later in the year. I don't know the exact date. I just know that it's later. Moore can take an out 5 days before opening day. Now, Dylan Moore has not, look, like he had a really rough year last year. He, while he's hit the ball hard this spring, he's just, he's been okay. Looks like a 26 guy.
Yep.
Would they, worry about losing him if they don't put him on the roster because he has an out at the end of spring? Maybe. If De La Cruz is so much better, then they would, would they just take De La Cruz? Possibly. But I think the fact that De La Cruz can go to AAA and not opt out right away, and Moore could opt out, that could play in Moore's favor here.
Yeah. It was almost like we saw with last year with Rafael Marchand and Garrett Stubbs, because Stubbs could be optioned to the minor leagues and Marchand had not been the incumbent backup. He was favored to win the job coming out of spring, and lo and behold, because Stubbs could be optioned, you saw what happened. So the roster particulars could indeed work in Dylan Moore's favor. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the biggest, right. What's left here for us this spring? Okay. One, tracking Zach Wheeler's progress. He continues to throw bullpens. Does he face hitters this week? He might, in like a live BP kind of situation. I could totally see that sometime, maybe later this week. Kirkering, he has thrown a ton of bullpens. I guess he threw a live, maybe some sort of minor league thing. Does he get into a game this week? Like, does he got enough time here? I think it's taken longer than I thought it would, at least me. There's still, again, 2.5 weeks of Grapefruit League games, so he's got time, I think. But if he doesn't get into a game this week, then I would say he will not be on the opening day roster. So that would create another roster spot. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, you're tracking Crawford and Painter. You're looking for little bright spots, I guess, from some of these bullpen guys, like seeing who can help them later. But beyond that, I mean, I think you're just trying to get through the next 2 weeks without suffering an injury. I mean, they break camp 2 weeks from today. Right? Yeah. 2 weeks from today is the final Grapefruit League game. So you are trying to get to the end here, not just feeling good about things, but also avoiding injury. And so far, Paul, I mean, they've avoided that appears to be any sort of, major injury. The Aiden Miller situation continues to be weird. We'll see. Yeah. Obviously, it stands to reason that he will not be ready for AAA opening day. I guess we'll see. He's got time, but I'm going to go ahead and say that they'll be pretty, even if he starts ramping up this week, which it sounds like he might, going to guess that he starts the year on the injured list, and they just kind of slow play it. So not the end of the world, but a little disappointing that we didn't get to see him in Grapefruit League games. But if it is truly that this is not a lingering issue, and I guess that remains to be seen, then so be it. He just ends up missing spring, but we'll see.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Instagram teen accounts, automatic protections for teens. Instagram teen accounts have built-in content settings, now inspired by 13+ movie ratings, and limits for who can contact teens. Plus, teens under 16 can't change these default safety settings without parental approval, so parents can help teens connect safely. Instagram teen accounts, automatic protections for who can contact teens and the content they can see. Learn more at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Now, finding a doctor is a little less challenging. United Health Group is investing in tools that make it easier for patients to navigate healthcare and pay less. These transparency tools help patients find providers, and this is the big thing: compare costs up front. The big picture? More transparent pricing benefits everyone. And these tools from United Health Group can help patients save hundreds of dollars annually. Learn more at unitedhealthgroup.com/commitment.
Few things are as uplifting as the greatest moments in sports. And nothing brings us together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, we're not just watching, we're cheering together. This winter, we're all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about last week, where Miller was not going to make the major league team, so it's not the biggest deal that he misses major league camp. But anything that slows your progress, of course, has ripple effects.
You want him to see, some big league-ish pitching this spring. Like, that would have been nice, and he didn't really get that chance. So it is a missed opportunity.
So that's basically where we stand right now, here in the middle of March, as fake spring rolls in. Feel pretty good about going outside the next couple of days here in the East and the Northeast. Go outside, take advantage of that. Drink it in while you can, because it's going to go back down into the 40s pretty soon. Feel good about things. Get some vitamin D. I know I need it. Matt, as we look ahead now, you are heading back to Florida soon, correct?
Yes, next week.
All right.
Yep. So, I think it'll start to feel more real, I think, next week, once a lot of those WBC guys are back in camp, and once you start seeing, Rob Thompson kind of play around with lineup configurations with most of his guys. I think it'll start to feel a little more real. It's just it's just so weird, right? That it's 2.5 weeks away. It does not feel like that. No. And it also then at the same time feels like this spring has gone on forever, hasn't it?
It is. It's very mid-March feeling right now. Yes, where both of those things are true. It doesn't feel like we're ready for a season, but it also feels like we've been doing this for weeks and weeks. It's great. It's like the liminal space of baseball.
What's like the WBC has been fun just to remember some guys. Like, I can't believe that Severino Gonzalez is still
yes,
a professional pitcher. And he took the loss in one of those games for Panama. Yeah, I saw Vance Worley pitched. I think the hardest pitch he threw was like 87 miles an hour. It's beautiful. It's a lot of remembering of guys.
Former Phillies great Sam Aldeguerre struck out 8. Dante
Nori, two dingers against Brazil. He's gonna get a big stage against the U.S. Italy plays the U.S. Tuesday.
Yeah.
What have you enjoyed so far about WBC?
I have enjoyed the fact that the schedule.
Do you like every announcer telling you how this is the most important baseball thing ever?
There is maybe a little extra juice behind some of the play-by-play that I wouldn't necessarily inject into my own commentary, but I have been enjoying the way the schedule has been staggered, and I always like how the guys show that extra emotion for almost like every play. Like there is something really, really important to a lot of these guys about this tournament and the way they react to, these play, like the home run the other day and for Puerto Rico. Like, it's just, It's just cool. I like watching that, even though
it's really cool. I don't need everyone to tell me how this is, how meaningful this is, and how just show it. And like the images and the pictures speak for themselves. Like these guys are clearly into it, and it's cool. But I don't need the announcers telling me constantly how important and meaningful this is to everybody.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get off my my soapbox here.
No. Quick parallel along those lines, because this is one of the gripes I have about a show that's really popular right now, The Pit. And
I haven't watched season 2 yet.
Yeah,
I need to steel myself before watching season 2, because season 1 was great. I loved it, but it was a lot. It's intense.
Yeah, like they're not shy with the visuals. I think with this show, it's good and I enjoy it. Some of the writing can just beat you over the head with the theme or the lesson that they're trying to teach you in a given episode. They say it, they lay it plain what they are trying to teach you and tell you instead of showing you. Right. And that is the exact thing I don't need from commentary in every game. Just, let the players do the talking. Let them show the emotion. Let them get fired up. Let all this stuff just kind of happen naturally and organically. You don't need to put it in a neon sign in front of my face. All right. So there you go. I'm right there with you. Okay, good. That'll do it before we get too far off. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Today's episode was produced by members of our Patreon. That's right. Producers of today's episode: Brian J., Brianna W., Callison Ghost, Christopher S., Daniel Y., Hunter R., Ian, Jacob, Jaden M., Jason G., Joe Mack, John S., Caitlin M., Cody L., Lindsay, Lisa L., Michael W., the other Michael W., Robert R., Timothy G., Tom D., Tom H., Zach, and our anonymous supporters as well. Thank you, everybody, for chipping in. If you want to be part of this, patreon.com/Phillies Therapy has what you are after. We have expanded our offerings, included some different tiers. I just read the names of some of the members of that tier. Nudge, nudge. We'd love to have you be part of our community and talk ball with us this year. And thank you to everybody, even if you're not a producer or an executive producer of the show. Thank you very much for listening and being part of this. This has been Phillies Therapy, part of the Believe Podcast Network. For Matt, I am Paul, and we will talk to you again soon.
Few things are as uplifting as the greatest moments in sports. And nothing brings us together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, we're not just watching, we're cheering together. This winter, we're all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't predict the future, but it can help you feel confident about future hires. Because Hiring Pro combines real-time insights and candidate data from the LinkedIn network with the criteria you've set for your role to deliver you a list of top-fit candidates. Businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post your first job today and get $100 off at linkedin.com/Pandora offer. Terms and conditions apply.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Having the right people in your corner for life's biggest milestones makes all the difference. Like a friend who's there when you're house hunting or checking out a new ride, State Farm is there too, helping you choose the coverage you need. With a State Farm agent, you know someone is there to help you along the way. And with so many coverage options, it's nice knowing you have help choosing a plan that fits your needs, so you can continue celebrating all of life's milestones. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Bob Evans creamy mac and cheese and buttery mashed potatoes are made for those Easter moments you just can't plan for, like realizing that Easter egg hunting really builds up an appetite, or that time when the neighbors burnt their entire holiday meal and you invited them over. So this Easter, when there is no plan, say hello to Plan B.O.B. from Bob Evans, because when you bring out the Bob, you'll always have something delicious on the table, no matter what the Easter Bunny brings. When you need quick and easy comfort, bring out the Bob. Available now in your refrigerated section.